Ladies and gentlemen, this is huge. The Supreme Court just sided with President Trump on an executive order he signed several months back. Hit subscribe. We'll get to the specifics about this. You'll hear President Trump in a second. But this is more than just the quote-unquote moral or ethical issue Democrats want to make everything out to be. It's about millions upon millions of dollars, or millions of dollars. Here's how much the Pentagon has spent. So, according to this article in military.com, 11.5 million, 3.1 million, about 15 million total for 1,892 troops. That's one of the reasons that President Trump, probably the main reason President Trump signed the executive order. If you disagree with that, well, there's legislation in Congress that Democrats are pushing. We'll see if Democrats run on this legislation. I doubt that they will, because the majority of Democrats don't truly believe in their alleged value system. But this was a huge, huge, huge victory for President Trump. ABC News, AP, Associated Press, Washington Post. Hit subscribe. Huge victory for Trump today. He essentially gets full control of the United States military, which he already had as president, as commander-in-chief. The executive power shall be vested in the president of the United States. He shall and he's also commander-in-chief. So this is Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution. But let's go ahead and listen to this. Hit subscribe.
His promise to get wokeness out of the United States Armed Forces as he signs multiple executive orders to reshape the military.
Senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy has all the details. Hey, Peter.
Good morning. And standing here, it feels like it's been more than a week and a day since President Trump was sworn in, because so far, and we've got a graphic here, he signed 38 executive orders, and he signed them in the Oval Office and at an arena and at his resort in Florida. The latest ones came last night, and what they do is reinstate troops who refused the COVID vaccine, about 8,000 people, develops an American Iron Dome missile defense system like what they have in Israel, formulate a new policy on transgender troops. That is up to Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, to figure out how that's going to work, and then ban DEI initiatives in the military.
I'll be signing 4 new executive orders. First is that I'm directing our new Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, he's what we need, to immediately begin the construction of a state-of-the-art Iron Dome missile defense shield, which will be able to protect Americans. You see that with Israel, where out of 319 rockets, they knocked down just about every one of them. So I think the United States is entitled to that, and everything will be made right here in the USA, 100%.
And the Trump cabinet is growing. His Treasury Secretary was easily confirmed last night. Scott Bessent got 68 votes. Sean Duffy for transportation is expected to get bipartisan support as well later on today. Nothing public on President Trump's schedule that we have seen, but he is planning to send his press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, out to the briefing room for her first appearance there. Back to you.
It'll be historic. Hey, Peter, going back to when you were talking about how Donald Trump revoked the Biden policy allowing trans people to serve in the armed forces. The number of trans people in the armed services right now, I know there was an NIH study or estimate done like 5 years ago at 8,000. Who knows how many there are today. What's going to happen to those people?
It sounds like once Pete Hegseth comes up with the new policy, they are going to be discharged. And it's not essentially what the argument is in the fact sheet that we were given about that executive order. President Trump does not think that transgender people are physically or mentally stable enough to serve in the armed forces, and they specifically cite readiness with transition surgeries. If you have a transition surgery, the recovery time and the narcotics that you have to be on as part of the process could affect your readiness for up to 12 months. They say that is what their concern is.
So Democrats should simply, if they agree or they disagree with President Trump, if the Democratic Party, if liberals and progressives and the far left and the wonderful morally superior among us, if they disagree, they should simply say, hey, you know what? These procedures and the millions of dollars associated with them are should be part of the lethality or of the readiness or of national security. It's important in terms of national security, the readiness of the military, and it makes us stronger as a country. See, the Democratic Party and the endless public relations machine, all these publications that will say that Trump is a tyrant and despot, authoritarian, the activists that will say that Trump is a despot, he's horrible, he's cruel. They're not making the argument that it's good for the military. They're not making the argument that millions of dollars being paid for these procedures are good for the military, that they make us they strengthen our presence militarily throughout the world. Okay, so this is the military.com article. It's not about the difference. The thing with President Trump and the thing that Democrats and media and progressives and left-leaning activists, what they don't understand about President Trump, he doesn't dislike anyone. There's no like hatred or cruelty or malevolence or vitriol. That's not how Trump runs. That's how Democrats see Trump, because anything that they don't like is the end of the world and, you know, a despot authoritarian, and you're like, should never have been born and you're a horrible human being. Trump looks at things and says, look, I don't think this is rational or logical. It's not good for readiness. And furthermore, it's not just the individuals that he's banning. He's firing generals, too. He's been firing generals left and right and top brass at the Pentagon. Check this out.
Stan.
Mr. President, you were just talking about Afghanistan and the botched withdrawal. Have all the generals or command staff that were involved with the withdrawal been fired or relieved of duty?
Well, that's a great idea. I'm not going to tell this man what to do, but I will say that if I had his place, I'd fire every single one of them, Pete. That's a very good question.
Well, it's a question we've thought a lot about. We're doing a complete review of every single aspect of what happened with the botched withdrawal of Afghanistan, and plan to have full accountability. It's one of the first things we announced at the Defense Department for that reason, sir. Certainly, General Raisin Kane, who's on his way in, was not a part of that. Instead, was a part of leading the effort against ISIS by untying the hands of warfighters and finishing the job properly, and then bringing our troops home. So we're taking a very different view, obviously, than the previous administration, and there will be full accountability.
I don't see big promotions in that group, and I think they're going to be largely gone.
You know, it was a telling moment because it's obvious where the Secretary of Defense stands on this issue before he became Secretary of Defense. But it's a much different role when you become the Secretary of Defense, because before you can fire these people or relieve them of duty, you got to have due cause. And so he has to let the investigation take place. But of course, he's just got that directive from the president saying, hey, I want them gone essentially on live television. And I think he's leaning to that direction, but he has to have the investigation take place before he makes that ultimate decision.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the Supreme Court essentially gave, this is Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution makes Trump the president, the commander-in-chief of the army. See, you cannot allow any judge to become commander-in-chief or to prevent the president from doing what he thinks is right in terms of military strategy or in terms of the military, the United States Armed Forces. It's in the Constitution. You're looking at the Constitution behind me. What Democrats, if they want, I showed you the bill in Congress. It was a Washington congresswoman. You have to go through Congress, Democrats. Democrats have consistently been losing major Supreme Court cases. They win Pyrrhic victories with federal judges. They're probably going to lose the major ability that they had for nationwide injunctions very soon, which will be yet another huge, huge victory for Trump. But President Trump has been getting endless victories. I explained the other day, he got the victory on immunity. He got the January defendant victory. He got the victory overturning the Colorado ban, Chevron deference, Dobbs decision. That's 5 right there. This is a monumental victory in terms of cementing his powers as commander-in-chief. He'll get the conviction overturned, and he'll get the nationwide injunctions overturned, and he'll get the, even before the Supreme Court, the civil fraud nonsense overturned. Hit subscribe to this channel. This was actually a very huge ruling backing Trump. Hit subscribe. Thank you.